I'm starting the recording. So welcome everyone. Welcome to the segmentation deep dive for Salesforce Marketing Architects. And today we have actually not one, but two presenters from DESelect. So we have Bree and Matthew. And before we get to their introductions, I'm just gonna say that, well, first, thank you for taking your time from your busy schedules and joining this session, and that all of our sessions are recorded and put into our YouTube channel. So I will add that to the chat link so you can subscribe to get updates on this and future sessions that we record. And a few sort of housekeeping items. So please, if you have any questions, comments, please add them to the chat. Let's keep it as interactive as possible. You won't have your microphones on, but you can ask questions in the chat, and then I'll try to be the sort of moderator and raise your questions in the appropriate time. We should have time at the end to cover most questions, right, Free?
Yes, correct.
Okay, that's good. I guess that's it from my side. So without further ado, Free and Matthew, please, the
Yep.
floor is all yours.
Good morning, everyone. So my name is Freber Kraaije. I am the partner director at DESelect. That means I work with mostly both the SI companies, the consulting companies, as well as Salesforce, the organization. And today I'm joined by Matt, who's one of our AEs. So he works in the sales team. If there's any opportunity or any customer that you work with that is looking for a solution that we can help with, feel free to reach out and then we'll follow up and collaborate on that opportunity. Today, though, we're here to demonstrate our solution, really specifically zoom in on our segmentation solution. So we'll get started with that. Please feel free to ask any questions in the chat. We'll tackle it right away, and let's get started. So first of all, DESelect is the marketing optimization platform for Salesforce. Today, specifically, that is Salesforce Marketing Cloud Engagement, or the former Exact Target. What do we promise our clients? We promise them faster execution of campaigns, more engagement in the results, and just better results overall. You can already see a few of our logos on the intro slide. But to really understand what we're doing, I'd like to start with a story. The marketing adventures of Didi. And first of all, of course, let's introduce our mascot, Didi. And Didi is a marketeer at a retail company. They recently implemented Marketing Cloud, and after seeing Salesforce's fantastic demo, that really, sparks a lot of inspiration. Didi's thinking about multi-channel, about automated campaigns, about 360 data view, and is getting really hyped about all the possibilities she has with Marketing Cloud. Unfortunately, reality quickly sets in as she is asked to open Automation Studio and write queries to build campaign audiences. And this is a very common reaction of marketeers as soon as they realize, typically somewhere at the end of the implementation, that they'll have to write something like this, write a SQL script or SQL query in order to be able to combine data tables to be able to make campaign audiences. And that's why at DESelect, we developed Segment. We wanted to make sure that marketeers are not reliant on SQL experts or internal IT experts. They're not dependent on consultants. They don't have this limited ownership of their contact data, limited autonomy, limited maturity. It feels a bit as penguins having wings yet not being able to fly. Luckily, there is a solution, and that's DESelect Segment. We're listed on the App Exchange. We do have a free version available as well. And it's basically no-code audience segmentation for Salesforce Marketing Cloud. It allows customers to execute campaigns in half the time. And it works in 3 steps. Step 1 is the input step. This is where a user will list the data they want to combine, the filters. And for that data, they can use any standard data extension, any shared data extension if it's coming from other BUs, synchronized data extension if it's coming from CRM, Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, and even data views. So you can access all of that in DESelect with drag and drop. Step 2 is we're gonna define the output step. Where are we gonna write this new audience? Which fields do we need? Are there any custom calculations required? Do we want to do any deduplication, any source limiting, any sorting of the results? That's all done in step 2. And then the last step, step 3, is preview of the results. So this allows a user to do a sanity check before actually writing the new audience in the new data extension. And at this point, they can save it, they can run the query, they can schedule it if it needs to be scheduled in the future or if it needs to run repetitively, hourly, daily, weekly. And it also allows to create reusable templates. So again, DESelect segment, it works in 3 steps. Step 1, input, where I define my data and my filters. Step 2 is the new audience that I'm creating. What do I need? Which kind of fields? Any special action I want to take here? And then step 3, preview of my data before I actually run the query. Once Didi is in possession of segment, it's all set up, and she's being able to use drag and drop for audience building. Now it's really, she feels a lot of power. She can execute powerful campaigns and really make use of that unlimited personalization. Didi also gets along great with Genie, and we'll talk more about that, how DESelect stacks up against Salesforce Data Cloud, which I'm sure many of you are wondering. And it's just one of the problems that we're solving at DESelect. So a lot of problems that customers come to us for is either poor campaign performance, whether that's low click-through rate or conversion, slow or disorganized campaign execution, inefficient resource allocation, building segments takes too long, and perhaps that is because they rely on SQL or expensive technical teams, and communication frequency is too high, too low. Those are just a few of the signals that could be interesting to watch out for in case you're thinking about positioning DESelect, whether it's segment or one of our other solutions. These are really the signals that we're watching out for that we know we can solve for. And I'm just going to pause here for a second and ask the question to the room. Are any of these problems, these challenges, do they sound familiar? The segmentation or SQL challenges, have you dealt with that at any of your clients or at your current company? So that's a question for the chat. Please let me know if any of these challenges sound familiar, if the segmentation challenge or the SQL challenge more is something that sounds familiar to you. And I'll wait to see some answers come in via the chat. I don't see anything coming in yet. I'll move on to the next slide, but feel free to let me know 1, 5, and 6. So poor campaign performance, communication frequency, and the SQL does sound familiar. It's something we hear quite often, both from companies, from SI companies, as well as from Salesforce themselves. And of course, Salesforce is these days positioning Data Cloud as a solution to handle, to not rely on SQL. And we'll see in a second how we compare DESelect to Data Cloud. Okay, I'll move on to the next slide. So DESelect, our marketing optimization platform, today combines three core solutions. We're currently actually working on a fourth one, but today we combine three solutions to offer Marketing Cloud users, meaning Marketing Cloud engagement or exact target, more control than they've ever had before. And those solutions are Segment, that's the one we're going to zoom in on today. We also have Engage, that's a solution to handle frequency capping or communication frequency in Marketing Cloud, so a user can define their own rule, their own limit. They can optimize campaigns for the optimal frequency, and they can visualize all their campaigns in one calendar and see how it's going to impact that engagement. And then our third solution, that's a free solution actually, it's called DESelect Search. It's a search anything toolbar for Marketing Cloud. So it saves you a lot of time. You don't have to click through all the studios to find something. You just have a search bar at the top on the homepage, and it allows you to search and find anything in Marketing Cloud. So remember, DESelect three solutions: Segment, Engage, Search. Search is a free solution. You can download that today from the App Exchange and just make your life in Marketing Cloud a little bit easier. Overall, some of the results you can expect when adding DESelect to your Marketing Cloud stack, it's 250% or 300% higher click-through rates. You see the same impact on open rates. You can expect faster campaign execution and substantial cost savings. We do even see impact on marketing generated to revenue, measurable impact. And how are these solutions designed? They sit on top of Marketing Cloud engagement. So I know there's a lot of info on this slide, but focus on the blue box on the right, representing Marketing Cloud engagement. On the left side, you see the typical data sources connected, whether it's Salesforce CRM, Data Cloud, or third-party solutions, data lakes, warehouses, legacy solutions, or standalone marketing solutions. Once they're connected to Marketing Cloud, we have three solutions to help users make the most out of that data. We have Search, Segment, which we'll see today, and Engage to manage communication frequency. Any questions so far? So I don't see
Seems
anything.
that, no questions in the chat. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just continue. So today we'll focus more on Segment, and we'll jump in a second into Marketing Cloud, where we'll break down the solution and walk you through it and each of the features as well. But basically, no-code audience segmentation for Salesforce Marketing Cloud. Why is that important? It allows you to execute campaigns in half the time. So we like to even call it Segment Studio for Marketing Cloud, in the sense that it's fully integrated, it's intuitive drag and drop, and it's plug and play setup. It requires about 30 minutes to install by our team. We do some sanity checks. Once it's installed, you can use it right away. There are opportunities for SIs to build a few, what I like to call shortcuts into the solution, building templates and things like that to make it even easier to use. But by default, installation takes 30 minutes and you can use it right away. There's no implementation necessary for you to use it. As I mentioned, it allows you to cut time in half that you need to work on campaigns, and particularly on the audience part of your campaigns. That way, marketeers can focus on the creative part, on generating results with their campaigns. Technical teams can focus on higher value tasks. So it really is a big boost for a marketing team and for your resource work, for your bandwidth. It really allows to increase campaign velocity. So when you're working with SQL, you typically rely on some sort of expert. You need to brief them. You need to follow up. It stretches out the process and the time it takes for you to be able to launch a campaign from idea till actual execution. So with us, we can cut that time in half, higher campaign velocity, more flexibility for marketeers, and just overall better results. What about data cloud? It's a very common question that we get from consultants, from Salesforce themselves. And we like to see it as a complementary solution. So typically, we look at the first question that we ask a potential customer is if they're ready for a customer data platform or a data activation platform like Data Cloud. What does that mean? It is when a marketing team is implementing Data Cloud, do they also have ownership of this? Because if they don't have ownership over the solution, they will still rely on the IT team that might be governing Data Cloud to actually build segments, build audiences for them. We think that this reliance isn't to the best benefit of the marketeer. They need to be independent, and that's why we think that this is an important nuance to take. Even if they're ready for something like Data Cloud, even if they implement it, it still begs the question whether the marketing team is governing the solution and if they can independently create campaign audiences. If yes, Data Cloud's a great solution, no need to add anything to that stack. However, if the IT team is governing Data Cloud and the marketing team still requires something to be independent on campaigns, on audiences, then they can consider getting both Data Cloud and DESelect segment. And I'll talk about a customer who has both in a second. But in that sense, Data Cloud will be used by the IT team to consolidate data from different sources, to unify that data into profiles, to activate this data into a solution like Marketing Cloud. So Data Cloud consolidates clean data, activate it in Marketing Cloud, and then the marketing team can use DESelect for micro day-to-day segmentation, playing around with filters, seeing how it impacts the reach of your audience or the size of your audience, being able to go back, tweak the filters again, and this whole day-to-day segmentation, this micro segmentation. Of course, you don't want to pay consumption on that, so that's why we think DESelect on top of Data Cloud could make a lot of sense. And then you have the customers that are not ready for something like Data Cloud for whatever reason. It can be but no budget. It can be that they don't have the timeline to wait for an implementation of Data Cloud, and they're just looking for something small in Marketing Cloud. In that case, we think DESelect could be a great alternative, whether that's permanent or temporary, could be a great first step to get more control of their data. So that in short is how we position DESelect next to Data Cloud. It can be an alternative or it can be a complementary solution to make sure marketing teams are independent in their data activities. Again, looking at the chat, is there any question on this? Any confusion? No.
Seems not. Go ahead.
Moving on. So DESelect compared to Data Cloud, the license cost is lower, very different implementation timeline. You're looking at 30 minutes or 1 to 3 weeks max with the trainings, etc., compared to 6 to 18 months with Data Cloud. Of course, the data scope is different. You rely on the data that's available in Marketing Cloud. You cannot unify data from legacy systems and things like that. But it also tends to be less complex, easier to be owned by marketing users that can work independently. And this is how that architecture would look like. So again, Data Cloud, ingesting data from different sources, unifying it, activating it as a master segment in Marketing Cloud, and then using DESelect segment really on the day-to-day campaign segmentation. This hybrid architecture has benefits of operational costs. As I mentioned, you would use the heavy data work in Data Cloud, and once you activate it as a master segment, you can use DESelect's lack of consumption-based pricing to really do unlimited segmentation for your campaigns. As I mentioned, we do have customers that have both. One of those examples is school specialty, and they use it exactly like I mentioned. The IT team governs Data Cloud. They use it to combine different data sources, to clean it, to activate it on Marketing Cloud. And then the marketing team uses DESelect Segment for just segmenting where they're already working in Marketing Cloud and being able to, play around with the different filters without any financial repercussions. Good. The idea would be to jump into a demo. I do see that there's a question, so I'll just tackle that one first. So with the Data Cloud plus DESelect hybrid setup, what would be the additional value compared to just linking those data extensions to each other in Email Studio relationship and have marketeers build their segments with filters? Just linking. Again, the difference would be more flexibility. So I can imagine if you will want to do that and work with filters, there will still be some back and forth with the IT team where they will need to make changes to the master segments or to the data extensions instead of just being able to do it directly themselves in Marketing Cloud. So the benefit is really the independence of the marketeer being able to, in Marketing Cloud, access all their data, play around with it in function of the campaign audiences they need to build, maybe the reach targets that they need to hit. That's really the main benefit. And the fact that there's no cost associated to that. Does that answer your question, Tommy? In the meantime, I'll switch over to Marketing Cloud for the demo. Again, if there's any particular you want to see, anything particular you want to see from DESelect segment or any questions you have, maybe in anticipation of this meeting, feel free to drop it in the chat. If not, I'll get started on a quick walkthrough of the solution. Even with DESelect, so I'm just reading Tommy's question first. Even with DESelect, someone still has to make the setup to link the data extensions to each other. Not necessarily. Users could do that themselves without any technical knowledge, and we'll see in a second how that would work. But it is true that a more technical savvy user, or not even technical, but just any user with some understanding of the company's data model, can build some shortcuts, some linking of tables already prior to a non-technical user going into DESelect. It is possible, it does help, but it's not required. A non-technical user could really figure it out with some help, and I'll show you in a second. They really don't need anything else, no setup required to get started. Thanks for your question, though, Tommy. We'll cover that, and I'll highlight it and call it out as part of the demo to show you what I mean exactly. We'll get started with the demo node now, walkthrough of DESelect segment, and as you can see, we are in Marketing Cloud. So it's not a standalone solution that I need to log in that integrates with Marketing Cloud. This is really a solution built in Marketing Cloud, so users don't need to leave this solution. How do they access this? Access DESelect? Well, once it's installed, they would navigate to the App Exchange, click here, and be able to open DESelect segment. Once they do, this is the view that they would see. This is the home page of DESelect. I think the font size is okay, so I don't need to increase the size. So this is what they land on. And just to give you a brief rundown of the page, on the top left, you will see the app toggler, so you can switch between different DESelect applications if you have any. You will have your full list of previously created selections or audiences. We call that a selection in DESelect. So I'll have my previous selections and my folder structure to organize them on the left. And this should have a very similar look and feel to other areas of Marketing Cloud. So your folders on the left, your list on the right. I can search within the list based on name or based on created by or modified by. I have a calendar view in case I have selections that are planned on a certain date. That way I can see them in a calendar view. And I can create a new audience, and that's what we're going to do in a second. And then here on the bottom right, you can access your settings tab. So any type of user management, any type of technical setup that you do want to use, if you have the time to do that, and if you have the resources to build those. This is where you build those shortcuts that I mentioned. That's all here on the bottom right. You have some shortcuts to our help and support as well, but that's basically the homepage. So let's go ahead, create a new one, user group test. It asks me to create a name for my audience. I'll name it user group. And as you can see, I can also choose from a template. So that's one of those shortcuts that a technical user could do. They could build an audience template and allow users to use it as a starting point. That way, the user only needs to adapt the filters, save it again, and they're good to go. It's one of these shortcuts that you can build in DESelect segment to make it even easier for non-technical users. In this case, I'm not going to start from a template. I'm just going to start from scratch. And what you'll see now is those 3 steps that I mentioned at the top in the middle. The input, it's where we're going to define our data and our filters. The output, where we're going to define this new audience that we're creating. And then the preview step. All right. Again, if there's any questions at any point, I'm keeping an eye on the chat, so please feel free to drop your questions if you have any. All right, step 1 out of 3, we're gonna define the inputs that we need for our segmentation. So we're gonna define which data we're gonna try to combine. And next step is gonna be the filters. So first of all, the data, I have here 3 tabs available. Any data extension that's available in Marketing Cloud automatically shows up here. So that can be standard data extensions. It can be synchronized if they're coming from CRM, or it can be shared if they're coming from other BUs. All of these show up here. You can, of course, control the visibility of those in the settings. Again, settings here in the bottom right. So some customers, pharmaceutical customers, for example, they do use DESelect to actually control visibility on data extensions. So you can say only give these kind of users access or visibility to these 10 data extensions, or you can say give them to all data access to all data extensions except this selection. So you can control visibility to data extensions as well with DESelect segment. Once I find my data extension, I can simply drag and drop it. It's going to ask me to rename, and that's it. I can also, as you can see here at the top, I can access my data views. So any bounces, clicks, opens, unsubscribes, etc., all the data that Marketing Cloud is keeping track of by default, I can access these data views here as well, and simply drag it in there. Again, it asks me to rename it, and next it's going to ask me how these tables should be combined. One thing to Tommy's question, what was the question exactly? Someone would still have to make the setup to link the data tables together. So as I've shown you, that's not really true. As a user, I can just do that myself. I can find, for example, contact data. I'm just going to look for my demo data. Let's say I want to do contact data and orders. I simply find both data sets. Let me take this one, for example. I just drag it on top. I don't have to link it before. I can just do that as part of the process. So while I'm building a new audience, it's going to ask me, how do you want to link those 2 data tables together? I have customer data in one table, I have order data in the other table, it's going to ask me how do they stack up together. And in this case, for example, my ID field on the contact table matches my contact ID field on the order data. And how do I want that join to be? I want that to be an inner join. I want to find all the contacts that have actually an order. I can just do all different types of joins, and as you can see, the graph adapts. If I want to, for example, combine all the my contacts, and I want to combine all the orders together, that means in my final audience, I'll have contacts that didn't place an order, or I might have orders that are not linked to a contact. Um, any type of join that I want to do, I can select here, and the visual representation helped me understand how that join is actually being done. Exactly. So you have to choose the keys for joining them, but you can do it in advance. And I'll show you that now. So Tommy had a great question. He was asking, well, if I want to combine different data tables, how do I do it basically? And as I showed you, you can do it on the spot right here. You just take one data source, you put the other one on top, and the system is going to force you to ask, how do these two tables how are they linked, how are they related to each other, how do the ID fields match up, and how do you want to join them. However, if I'm really not technical, maybe this is already challenging for me. In those cases, a technical user can predefine all of that, can make a combination of different data tables, give it a name that non-technical users understand, like customers with order details. And by dragging this in here, automatically 3 data tables will already be uh, combined for me. So I don't need to think about that. I just drag this in there, and automatically you will see contact data is already matched with order data, with the right join type, the right ID fields linked, and order line items are linked to orders, again, with the right matching ID fields and the right join types. Is there a limit to how many tables you can link to one data set? No, there is not. Unlimited linking. If there is a chance of session timeout, our customer success team will work with customers to make sure to identify that. But when that happens, they can use something called waterfall segmentation, which is basically the same thing, but just sequencing some of those querying or filter activities. It's basically if you have a very big data set that you combine, a lot of filters, you can just chop that up into 2 or 3 activities instead of trying to do it all at once, and that's going to help avoid timeout issues. Otherwise, no limit whatsoever. Once I've selected my data sources, the next step is the filters. All the fields of my data sources are available, even the related records. If I want to filter, within the related records, I can do that as well. And then again, it's a matter of drag and drop. So for example, maybe I want to filter on a certain age. Maybe I want to filter on a certain country, and maybe on a certain amount. Date fields can be either done based on a calendar date. They can even be done relatively. So let's say I want to filter out all people that are not adults. I just say their birthday needs to happen at least 18 years ago. I can do, say, a delivery country, for example, is now in Belgium, and I can say an order is greater than $50. That's an example of a filter. Of course, I have my and or operators, but I also can create multi-stage filters. And I can, again, create as many levels in these filters as necessary. Just like this shortcut with data, different data sets already being combined, predefined by a technical user, the same thing can be done for filter sets. By default, DESelect will create for you a few behavioral filter sets. So that way it's easy to filter. For example, it's asking me how the ID field links to subscribers. But for example, imagine I also want to filter on customers that have at least clicked on one email in the last 6 months. With these predefined filter sets, that's easy to do. So I'm going to just recap what we've done in step one. We've done using a data set that combines already different data tables together. We've quickly did quite an advanced selection of or joining of data sets. I could have done that manually as well by just dragging in all the data. I can access the related records of my data tables as well. All of that in
Okay, seems there's some technical challenges with free.
data extension to do that, or will I create a new one? If you're used to SQL, you have to create this data extension in advance. In Contact Builder, here you can just do it as part of the process. And make it extendable, testable, all of those things. And here we go. Here I have a canvas to determine fields do I want on the new audience. And typically you'll want something like a first name. To address them in the email, you'll want the email field. And as you can see, it automatically maps to the field of your source. So from my original customer table, I'll take the first name and the email field and then in the new. For orders, I can do the same thing. I can simply add fields with one click of a button on this new table. And then I can create something like a custom value. This is something new I will create here on my new table. For example, it can be the campaign name as a fixed value in a new column. It can be a dynamic value. Let's use this as an example. Let's say I want to create a field to cover the salutation already here, so that I don't need to worry about that in my email. We'll add a criteria, for example, if gender equals female, use a salutation dear madam. If gender equals male, we'll say dear sir, and the default value is dear. I'll save that new value, add it to my new audience. Where is it? Here we go. And voila. So that's how we do that. Again, any type of aggregation formula calculation that you want to do in your with your new audience, you can do that again with point and clicks. Any formula, any count, sum, aggregation can be done with clicks. This is really an interesting use case because it can maybe help avoid some AMP script use cases in Email Studio. Any questions here? I have to also define my send relationship. Once I'm happy with that, I save the structure. So it's not yet late.
Free. There was a question from Tommy again. Is there a limit to how many tables you can link to one dataset?
No, there isn't. So this one I think I covered already. So in the input, they can find as many data tables as possible. There's no limit whatsoever. I define the fields I want on my audience. I create a new custom value. Can be any type of calculation formula that you want. That way I have this calculation done on the data. I don't need to do it in the email. Like every time an email is sent, it doesn't need to run a certain calculation because I did it in advance using clicks. No need for any code. Again, it helps avoid some use cases. Once I'm happy with my structure of my new audience, again, we have a preview, so it's not yet running, it's not yet querying the data and filling it in this table, it's just creating the columns of that table in Contact Builder. I can do some advanced things, like I can deduplicate my data when I'm working with order data. That's maybe useful. Sometimes people place multiple orders and you don't want multiple records of those people in your final audience, or they might receive multiple emails of you. So I might decide to deduplicate my data based on highest order amount or based on most recent order, for example. I can sort and limit my data or my results, and I can limit how much records from my initial input data that I'm using for this new audience. I can, for example, decide to only use the first 10% of the records of my source data for the new audience. So these are some of the more advanced things that you can do with DESelect. Once I'm happy with the input, happy with the output, the next step is to preview the results. While I'm previewing, it's going to show you some user tips. It's also going to show you, when it's done, 3 pieces of information. It's going to show you the total record count for this audience. Marketeer needs to know, how many people are going to be in the campaign. So this is where that's going to show. It's going to show you how many records. It's also going to show you the first 20 records of this audience, really the full row. That way you can do a sanity check before you're actually going to run this new query that you created. Query working Automation Studio, there will be a folder, DESelect queries, and automatically created. So we do run on Automation Studio. It's just a user experience that you don't need to worry about any of the technical stuff. Well, it's ready with processing. As you can see, it shows you the total number of records. It shows you the first 20, so you can fully check that the data before you're actually running it. You can see my custom fields. It has automatically, based on the gender, created a salutation. So I can use this field at the beginning of the email. No AMP script needed. And I can show the SQL query that we've built in the back. Based on all of this data, I can decide to run it. That means the table that we've created here will be populated now. I can save it. I can save it if I want to work on it later. I can create a template out of it. Remember, in the beginning, we could start from a template or start from scratch. And I can schedule my selection in case I want to run it in the future, once or repetitively, hourly, daily, weekly. And that's it. So I can, for example, decide to run that now, and now it will start running the selection. Once it's done, it will give me a check mark or an error. If I would have scheduled it, it would show me a calendar symbol green if it has run, or orange or red if it's in the future. And then of course the date for which it's scheduled. So that's basically DESelect segment. I know that we only have 10 more minutes and I do want to leave some room for questions. So I'll just pause here. We didn't cover all the advanced features. We didn't look in detail at deduplication, sort and limit, source limiting. We did a look at the settings tab where you will build all of those shortcuts like data sets, filter sets, predefined relationships. But I do think we covered a good amount. We covered the 3 steps: input step where you combine different data. You can do that in advance or on the spot. It's all with clicks and drag and drop. You can access your data views. You then define your filters, either individual filters, or if someone defined a filter set for you, you can use that. In step 2, the output, we define the fields we need on our target audience. We can even create new fields that run some sort of calculation. We can do some advanced actions like deduplication, sort and limit, source limiting, any type of things you want to do for A/B testing, you can do there. And then in the last step, how to preview of not running your query before you had a chance. Those 3 steps, input, output, preview, I think we covered quite in detail. Any question that anyone has, what they saw today?
I think we've answered all the questions.
Okay. Then in that case, I'll just go back to my slides for the final cover. We have a few customer stories. I'm not going to go through these at the moment. Just know, in general, our customers, they come to us after the implementation when they have their hands on Marketing Cloud and, they see a bit of struggle with the SQL part. They might have a lot of campaigns running and also see some challenges with frequency capping, not being able to, first of all, see or control how many messages contacts are receiving from you, and generally, poor engagement, whether they want to solve that with creating more filtered audiences with segment, or whether they want to optimize the frequency with which they communicate. Those are some of the pain points that we can tackle and typically that we alleviate with our customers. So I'll skip through the customer success stories. It's usually the same. SQL was an issue. Our engagement frequency was an unknown or was an issue. You can find all of these, by the way, on the website if you're interested in seeing more, or you can contact me if you're interested in hearing a success story for a particular country, particular industry, particular use case. Just reach out to me. I can help you further. Some of the customers that we serve, you might recognize Boost or Remarkable. As you can see, we're pretty much spread across industries. We do well in consumer goods, retail, but also technology. So Dell, for example, is one of our customers. Automotive works quite well. We have Volvo, we have Renault Benelux as well. Pharmaceutical, telecom, pretty spread across industries, but more towards enterprise and mid-sized companies, not so much the smaller companies. If you want to read some of the nice things people say about us, to head to any of the review platforms. And security information, again, you can read on the website, but just know that we are ISO certified, GDPR compliant. We do have some other security certificates that you can consult on security.deselect.com. And if you want to contact me, here's my information. We're reachable on Slack as well, LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out. If you have any customer that you think, that they have the challenges that we solve for, we gave the buying signal, so please be also on the lookout for customers that you can help with our solutions. If there's no other questions, I'll stay on for a few more minutes. But if there's no other questions, I thank you very much.
Thank you,
And
Free, and thank
speak
you,
soon.
Matt. Yeah. Thanks everyone for attending. As said, please follow our YouTube channel to get the recording for this and past and future sessions, and join our virtual group. The links are in the chat. All right.
Thanks very much. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.